Welcome to the NTSC 5 in 5 series, where I, Ashwin, Krishnan, host amazing tech leaders and stand out in any sec. Today, my guest is Stephen Weber, CISO, Chief of Staff at AbbVie. My questions to him, his thoughts on how we should address cyber talent shortage, impacts of the SEC notification regulation, building trust with execs and the board, and two really personal questions. Watch on. So, Steve, there are multiple articles every day about cyber talent shortage. How do you feel we can address this better?
That's a great question. So that's actually kind of a passion of mine. At our organization, one of the things we're really focused on is how do we start building more young, early career talent into the cybersecurity industry. I've always found that in the cybersecurity space, people tend to say they want 10 to 15 years of experience every time they fill a position. And if we do that, we'd have to go in a time machine and really fix the problem 15, 20 years ago. So part of what we've really been focusing on is how do you kind of build that early career talent and find people who've got a passion for technology. They don't have to be cybersecurity experts, but then how do you really build that next generation of talent? And then for the talent that you already have, how do you retain it? How do you build a sense of community and a sense of culture? So my team actually happens to have a dedicated person that focuses on departmental culture. How do we ensure that the team is engaged? The team feels like they're part of a broader sense of community within our security function, especially as our security function's growing, like a lot of companies are. Lots of new faces all the time. So how do you make them feel welcome right out of the gate? And so those are a lot of the things that we focus on there.
Awesome. What do you think will be the immediate and long-term impacts of the SEC notification regulation?
Yeah, the immediate one is an interesting one because I think people are struggling to figure out what to notify people on. And if you actually look at people's filings, what you're finding is an awful lot of people are reporting very minor events. And so it's kind of creating noise, and it's not really focused, I think, on the original intent the SEC was looking for, which is what are the things that matter that investors need to be aware of. So I think in the short term, everyone's working with their outside legal counsel to figure out what the right answer is. It's going to have to stabilize and normalize over time for different companies in different industries. The longer term impact is I think companies are going to have actual negative events that take place when they report those kinds of notifications. And I think the other challenge you're going to run into is does that maybe even make the company more of a target? So if they notify of an incident, does all of a sudden the hackers go, oh, maybe they're at risk, and then they get flooded with new people attacking them, which is probably an unintended consequence of the regulation.
How do you build trust with executives and the board?
That's a good one. This boards now, because of SEC requirements and other things, are way more focused on security. And a lot of boards don't have a lot of that skill set on hand. So to be getting in with, you almost have to educate the board on what is cybersecurity, how does it work, depending on the person's background. Do they have a risk management background? Because people think security is a right or wrong answer, and there's no right or wrong answers. It's always something in the middle where you have to adjust based on risk. So we spend a lot of time really educating our board, helping them understand things, helping them understand that inevitably most companies are probably going to have an incident at some point or another. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. No individual company could defend against a nation state threat, for example. So really focusing on that. And on the executive side, it's the education as well, but really just bringing transparency on what the team needs and what it takes to be successful.
So, switching to your personal side, if you could choose another career, what would that be and why?
So this is part of my retirement plan, but it'll be going into wine tourism is going to be my career path. Doesn't pay as much as the information security industry, as you can imagine. But so, yeah, kind of, I love touring around the world. I'm a big world traveler. So going to wine regions all over the world is one of my favorite things. So I anticipate retiring in Europe someday.
And last question, when was the last time you were truly happy and why?
To me, truly happy is when you can truly disconnect from your work and from everything else and have that kind of 10, if you can hit about that 10-day mark, you forget about all your troubles and you really just are completely disconnected from the day-to-day worries of the world. So anytime you can kind of make that happen is where I really enjoy.